Okay, new experiment time. The first purse that I ever bought for my wife was an Odeon PM bag from Louis Vuitton. Now, I don't know what that means, but she had it for probably 7, 8 years before she started collecting other bags because we didn't have any money. And she used it every day, and we had small children, and so it was pretty well abused and destroyed over the course of those 7 or 8 years. So much so that she doesn't really wear it anymore. And so I was talking to her the other night, and I suggested that maybe it would be fun to make a project out of restoring it. Not that I've ever done anything like that before, but who knows? Maybe it'll be fun. So what I did was recruited my kids. So I have 3 of my kiddos here holding cameras, and my wife as well. So we have 4 different camera angles that we're going to use to try and document the destruction and hopefully the reassembly of this special bag that my wife has donated to the YouTube video cause. Now you'll see a number of things that are wrong with this bag, but mostly it's just age. The leather wasn't very well taken care of. A number of times I saw my kids chewing on it when they were small, teething, and so on. The piping has worn through in a number of places. Everything's really very dirty. All the hardware is chipping and tarnished, and she just doesn't wear it. And so she wants me to take a crack at doing a restoration, something I've never done before, but it sounds like fun. And, what could happen? What could possibly go wrong? So that's what we're going to do. Now, the nice thing about this bag is that the canvas, the monogram print, is actually in pretty good shape. There aren't any holes or tears or rips in that canvas, and the zipper is still really quite smooth. So those are the 2 pieces that we want to save, all the canvas pieces, plus the very kind of wonderful zipper. But everything else is going to go. So the first step in this project is to cut everything apart and turn this purse into a pile of purse pieces. Another thing that you can see here is that the inside is pretty okay. There are some stains inside of the purse where I guess a ballpoint pen or something has leaked and created stains. I don't know what we're going to do there. One of the things that she'd like to do is to increase the size of that pocket there on the inside. It's sized for a sort of a standard old-timey phone, maybe like an iPhone 5 size, but she carries a bigger phone, so she is interested in having that pouch be a little bit bigger. So we may take a crack at recreating the lining. Okay, so they say the first cut is the deepest. So here we are. We're going to dive in and start disassembling this bag. Everybody's a little bit nervous, but I'm going to try to do it without actually destroying any of the leather pieces or the canvas pieces. One of the things I'm going to try to do here is to keep all these pieces and turn them into patterns and perhaps make another one of these bags out of leather or some other material that'll be just like it, but using a different kind of canvas. So I'm going to use this bag as a pattern while I have it apart, and then we'll see how that goes. So this is the first bit, and I'm about to get the strap off. And you can see if you look under the strap, you can see the original color of the leather. It's quite light colored. This is that Vachetta leather that Louis Vuitton bags have, and so all the leather that I replace here is going to have that same original color. So we'll see how that turns out. The next thing that I need to do here is get all the leather pieces off. That's the first step. So what I'm going to do now is go in and cut through the stitching here very carefully, making sure I don't cut that canvas. And what I found is that there are a few places underneath and inside where there's a bit of a rat's nest of thread. And that's just where whoever sewed this together on a sewing machine went back and forth to kind of lock in the stitches. There were a few places like that were a bit of a pain to get undone. But other than that, it was pretty easy to cut through this thread and avoid cutting the actual canvas or the leather. And so I pretty successfully got this guy taken apart into pieces. Another thing that I noticed here is that there is a lot of adhesive that's used underneath this, the different leather pieces. All of these leather pieces were stuck with contact adhesive or something like that to the underlying material, whether it was lining or canvas. So you can see that kind of goop under there. And so that is one of the things that you have to contend with as you're doing this, is making sure that your hands are staying clean and not smearing that goop all over the bag as you're taking it apart. I did find that there was kind of an unusual sort of lining material underneath as well. You can see a little oval of it here. I think that's just reinforcement, but there's a lot of it. If anybody actually knows what that stuff is, feel free to leave a comment in the comments. Now, it took me a minute to realize here that I've got the lining already detached. I really expected it to be attached to the inside of the bag somehow. But what's happened here is now that I've gotten all the stitching out, it's just stuck. It's more adhesive there, all the way around where that leather was attached that I originally put on. So once I pull that adhesive off, and it comes off really easily, then the lining of the bag just pops right out. It slides right out pretty easily, and you can remove it and look at it. Now, getting in and actually getting the rest of the bag apart was a little hard. It was just hard to get in there because, like I said, there was rat's nests of thread at all of the edges. And so I really had to dig for a little bit to try and get in there to get the stuff apart. But I eventually got there and was able to strip things apart. The thread cut through really easily, and except for around those corners, it was actually really straightforward to just slide that knife in and be able to pull it through the thread and make quick work of those of that piping. Again, on the piping, you can see that it's much lighter on the insides. There's a fair bit of oxidation or darkening that has happened over time, and I suppose that will happen, but I'll be replacing it with much lighter leather that matches the color that originally came on the bag. That's one point of debate here between my wife and I. She kind of wants it to be as close to the original as it conceivably can be. I'm a little worried about that for two reasons. One is I've never done this before, and I don't know how close I'll be able to do it. The other is that seems so boring to me, to go in and make it exactly like it was. It seems like this is a good opportunity to kind of personalize and add some style, but apparently that's not what's going to happen. So on to the other side now. We're going to flip it over and we're going to continue doing the same thing, just stripping those threads apart to get down to the bare pieces. I spent about an hour on the process of filming this, taking apart this bag into the individual pieces, really right at an hour. And so I'm going to try and keep track of the overall time spent. My wife says it takes 8 weeks to get these repairs back from Louis Vuitton. We actually checked into getting the entire bag kind of repaired by Louis Vuitton, replacing all the leather and the hardware and so on. And they wanted about $900 to do it, and 8 weeks. I think we originally paid about $800 or $900 for the bag when we bought it at the Louis Vuitton store about 7-8 years ago. So this is an experiment to see, number one, can we get it done? Can we get it done at all? And can we get it done in a way that doesn't cause my marriage to fail? Okay, there's one more piece here. that needs to come apart. There is a pouch in the front of the purse, and so there's a bunch of different layers here. So everything is kind of lined with that same fabric, canvas, linen-y type fabric. I don't know what it's called. But I need to go in here and just cut through all these rat's nests of thread, which have kept the bag from coming apart, I suppose, but they're pretty irritating when it came to actually trying to get it apart. So there was a lot of flipping things over and turning things and trying to get in there to cut through those threads. But I eventually made it and got into the bag so that I could get this pouch cut open and removed from the inside part. And you can see the canvas there on the inside of that pouch only goes down about a third of the way, and after that it is just that canvas material. That's all actually in really good shape, so I hope to be able to reuse those bits and just replace the leather. I think the main pieces that my wife would like to have replaced, you can see all the dirt and dust of 6-7 years of use and non-use that's collected in there. Sand and hair and fuzz and who knows what else. But I think the pieces that we are mainly interested in getting replaced are the leather and trying to clean up the hardware. She did say that the hardware looks a little bit chipped. I don't believe it's plated. I thought it would be solid, brass, I assume. But that may not be the case. So we'll have a whole video dedicated to the hardware and having a look at how that might be restored and made to look as good as new. So the main problem or the main challenge in going through this task is going to be replacing all the leather. And so the next stop that I'm going to make is at Tandy Leather to go in and actually buy some replacement leather pieces and start to match up the pattern pieces that I've taken off of this bag with the replacement pieces that I'm going to get from Tandy to try and get to where I can start reassembling the bag. Now, I don't actually have a leather sewing machine, so I think I'm going to try to do this by hand and see how that goes. But I'm probably going to regret that and may, in the course of this process, end up buying a sewing machine for this process. But who knows? I could still do that for substantially less than Louis Vuitton actually wants to charge me for repairing this bag themselves. So at the end of the day, I think I'm going to end up with a finished project. I think I'll be able to get it back together. Nothing looked particularly complex here. And I think I will end up with something that I can be proud of. So we'll see how it goes. So you can see all the bits and pieces that are left over at the end of this process. We've got pieces of lining, bits of leather, those edge pieces where the straps attached. The straps themselves will need to be replaced. All of the hardware is going to need to be looked at and repaired, and we're going to have to reassemble this thing in a way that doesn't make it look homemade. So that's the challenge. So this was the teardown video. This is the process of destroying the bag, and now we get to build all the replacement pieces and reassemble this thing so that it looks as pretty as it did when she first bought it. Okay, so here are all the pieces that you need to make an Odeon PM. Here's the front panel, and one thing that I had to do here was remove the lining fabric, although I probably could have gotten away without doing that. But here's the front panel. The second piece is the back panel. That piece is shown here. It's about the same size. It's a little bit taller because that front pocket isn't there, but you can see it shown here in the video. The next piece is that small thin strip that goes around the sides and bottom of the bag. What you'll see on the bottom here is that it's actually got a lining which looks like it might be leather. This is just to add some strength to the bag, I suppose. It's coming off a little bit, but it looks relatively new, so I think I'll probably just leave it as it is and not have to do anything with it. The next piece is the front flashing panel. This thing goes above the pocket and makes that Louis Vuitton pattern kind of persist and continue so that you can have the pocket in the front of the purse. Here are the two leather pieces that I'll be replacing. These guys are where the straps attach, and so you can see them pictured here. The next bits are the two leather strips that were at the top, lining the edges of the zipper. Those two pieces will be replaced as well. You can see them pictured here. Then you have some lining pieces that aren't particularly interesting. I think I may be reusing these. They look to be in pretty good shape. I may replace them. I don't know yet, but we'll cover that in future videos. This is the inside lining of the bag. One of the things that my wife asked for was a pouch that would fit her phone. So I may be redoing this, but it's in really good shape. The zipper's already attached, so maybe I'll leave it like it is. This is just a piece of lining fabric that was inside of the bag that came off as I was doing the disassembly. This is the strap. This piece is going to be replaced entirely. It's two pieces. The shorter end with the buckle and the longer end with the holes to receive it. And then finally the strips of piping, which are one of the reasons why we're doing this teardown in the first place. You can see that it's a core that's been wrapped with some very thin leather. So I'll be replacing those pieces in their entirety. So we'll see how this goes. It's my first time doing this, and hopefully it'll be fun.